The biggest mega mansions in the US. What's more luxurious than living in a huge, finely furnished mansion? Every rich person makes some mindful investments, and buying a big mansion is one of those significant investments. We've already discussed how rich people spend their money on supercars, expensive watches, and private jets. But now it's time for some of the most attractive pieces of architecture. Hey everybody, welcome back to Modern Luxury. Today, we're about to go over the biggest mansions in the US. Have you ever imagined that some mansions have their own bowling alleys, snooker table, bars, and massive gardens? Well, today, you'll be taking a tour of some of the most opulent houses in the United States of America. Here are the 5 biggest mansions in the US. Number 5. Winterthur. The current Winterthur Museum, Garden, and Library were once home to one of the biggest art and furniture collectors in America, Henry Francis DuPont. After generations of ownership, DuPont was finally named the owner of this vast piece of land in 1927. At the time of the death of his father, the estate consisted of about 90 buildings spread over 2,600 acres, but he and his wife tripled the size of this place. Every room in the house was themed using different periods such as medieval, Victorian, and many others. Each room had its unique furniture and surely a distinctive feeling too. The furniture design of every period was used as finely as possible. As Arden furniture collectors, the couple filled their home with some of the rarest art pieces in the world. Currently, it is the largest and richest museum of American furniture and decorative arts in the world. Before his death, DuPont was able to acquire 50,000 to 70,000 pieces of art and furniture. Visiting every room is not less than time travel. In the past few years, the museum expanded a lot in size. It is considered one of the biggest mansions in the US, with a size of 96,582 square feet. Currently, its library has more than 87,000 rare books and 800,000 manuscripts and images. Isn't it a place filled with treasure from all over the world? Number 4. The Arden House. Once owned by railroad tycoon Edward Henry Harriman, Arden is a historic estate built outside Harriman, New York. Harriman bought the land for $52,500 at the end of the 20th century. When we compare that to the worth of today's money, it's almost $2 million. He and his wife had a dream to build one of the most attractive mansions in the US. The Arden House is an astonishing 97,188 square feet big. The family owned a whopping 40,000 acres in the area. Finding stonework like this in the US is surely a hard task. As you enter the house, most every wall has an artistic touch. Marble and bricks have been used to create some of the finest pieces of art. The house is flooded with statues and tapestries as if you've entered a museum. Arden House has 97 guest rooms, each one better than the other. Almost every part of the house is illuminated with natural light, coming in from French-designed windows. Ultra-luxurious furniture is what you'll be looking at in every room, with majestic curtains and splendid designs. The dramatic music room is surely the heart of the house. The music room was designed after a medieval great hall, as the ceilings are covered with stonework and chandeliers that make this room a masterpiece. If you're running low on budget and can't visit the music rooms of European castles, Arden House must be on your list, as it's no less than a majestic palace. Unfortunately, Harriman, the owner of the house, only lived for a few months before his death, but surely left a legacy behind. Number 3. The One. You surely need to take some deep breaths before taking the tour of this mesmerizing mansion. The Mega Mansion in Bel Air is a masterpiece that you've never seen before. It took Paul McLean, a famous architect, about 10 years to construct this multi-story mansion in California. The house was billed as the most expensive private residence in the United States. And why wouldn't it be? Let's take a tour of this dream home. Spreading across 100,000 square feet, the One has 20 bedrooms, 30 bathrooms, and 2 astonishing dining rooms. A kitchen with the latest tech, with the rarest design, and a parking garage for the flashy cars of its owner. The house has a wine cellar that can accommodate more than 10,000 bottles. Enough for a whole lifetime, right? Well, if you're wondering that this house might have 1, 2, or 3 swimming pools, here's a fun fact. It has 5 massive swimming pools. What makes this house a luxury haven is a bowling alley and private casino. Well, you wouldn't need to step out of the house for any amusement now. Hold on to your seats, as there are many more surprises here. The one also has a private cinema and a nightclub. Is there anything more luxurious than this? Who might have owned this heavenly house? If you've watched the movies Galaxis, DNA, or Resurrection, guessing the owner of this house won't be a tricky riddle. Niall Niami, the American film producer, owned this house for a very short period before selling it for $127 million in 2022. Number 2. Oheka Castle. As the name makes it evident, we are talking about something huge. When we say the name Oheka Castle, Otto Hermann Kahn made a tremendous investment on the Gold Coast in 1919 to create this breathtaking castle. It was known as the largest private home in New York. Kahn died in 1934, and the estate was sold to many owners who changed with time. A Long Island developer, Gary Melius, bought the castle and invested millions to complete the largest renovation project in the history of the United States. He recreated almost every tile, window, and door of the house, leaving behind the terraces only. However, did you know that this castle became the inspiration for the novel The Great Gatsby? Surprising, right? Gary created the replica of Kahn's dream, keeping his legacy alive. In this part of the 21st century, Oheka Castle has been turned into a hotel with 32 guest rooms, and the property spreads over 109,000 square feet, making it the second largest mansion in the U.S. A place where Otto Kahn used to gather with more than 600 of his closest friends, is now one of the top wedding destinations in the country. The ultra-luxurious hotel has some of the most attractive designer furniture and art pieces. Well, if you are still imagining the castle in your head, why not visit it, as you can spend a few nights in Oheka Castle to see it for yourself. Number 1. Biltmore Estate. Before we take a tour of the biggest mansion in the U.S., beware, as you'll be entering an imaginary world. Consider yourself alive in Harry Potter, I may say. Biltmore Estate was built by George Washington Vanderbilt II in the 19th century and is still owned by his descendants. To build this gigantic palace, whole wood and brick factories were tasked to produce 32,000 bricks a day. Could you imagine that a railroad was built to transport materials to the building site? Isn't that pure class? About 1,000 workers gave their blood and sweat to build Biltmore Estate in about 5 years. Even in the 19th century, around $5 million was spent to construct this massive house, equivalent to $150 million today. Vanderbilt opened his home on Christmas Eve 1895, and hundreds of guests arrived to get a taste of pure leisure. It comes as no surprise that the person who designed the Central Park of New York, Frederick Law, also designed an opulent home for Vanderbilt. Stepping into this mansion, you will see some of the most expensive tapestries in the world in almost every room and corridor. The rooms are filled with royalty, and each piece of furniture is as royal as you can get. Statues, paintings, and the aesthetic library make it look like an ancient royal castle. Biltmore Estate has about 250 rooms filled with luxury. Beauty isn't restricted to the walls of the main building, but beyond that. There are several gardens, ponds, and an immense amount of greenery surrounding this building in North Carolina. Biltmore Estate is spread over 178,926 square feet, making it the largest privately owned house in the United States of America. These were the biggest mansions in the U.S.